All right, I think we're good, Kenny. What do you think? Yep,
I
I'd say
think
yeah.
maybe
Hey,
we're on the air, Jan. That's
we're
amazing.
live. We're
Whoa.
live, everybody. We're live. We're live. We're live. Well, welcome. Hey, this is the 67th meeting of this kind, and like minds get together. It's really good to have you all here. And there was a challenge with getting out the invitations. I don't know how many people got invitations, but somehow Zoom locked out the invitation feature, so I could not resend it out. I had to go through the SoundBroker email. So I'm glad to see so many people in the room. But if you didn't get your invite, it wasn't my fault. It was Zoom's fault. But the link still remains good for all of the other meetings. So we haven't changed the link. So if you still have a copy of the link and you're listening to this on Facebook or YouTube, you could get on. You can still join the panel. All right. Just remember this. This is an open, free discussion about what's going on in the world today and how it affects us as people and as an industry. And just remember, everything you hear today is an opinion, because we're not. Now, I don't think anyone on the panel is a scientist or an expert in any other field other than what they believe that they're an expert in that field, right? I guess that's what it is, right? We're all experts in something. And so just remember to do your research. Do your research. If there's something that if there's something you hear today that you want to, you want to believe, do your own research, because remember, there is so much information out there right now, and not all of it is correct. Like Will Rogers said, it's not what people know, it's what people think they know that just ain't so, that scares me to no end. And that's what it is. And even on this panel last week, there was somebody who will go unnamed, but was quoting from something that turned out to be a spoof. So it's easy, I mean, Snopes seems to work really well. So if you hear something that you think might be true or might be false, or you want to know before you pass on an email to someone, you can go to Snopes. That's SNOPES.com. They're pretty good. And the Urban Myth is another one. So anyway, welcome everybody. How's everybody doing today? Here in Thailand, it's 6 a.m. So there you go.
You're pretty bright and chipper for 6 a.m.
Yeah, well, I had to get up at 4. It's like I feel like it's the old days when I worked in the wholesale meat business. No life whatsoever. But it's only one day a week that I can do this, so I can.
That would be a perfect statement for Thailand. The wholesale meat business.
There's so much going on in the world today. I mean, not that we're going to get into it, but I mean, we got out of Afghanistan after 20 years, and that was pretty amazing. We'll see what happens with that. But right now, New Orleans is like a third world nation. They're going to be without power for 21 days, and Steve Sluter won't be able to join us. But he was telling me what's going on, and it is pretty brutal over there. Does anybody else have any connection in with New Orleans and see what's going on with the Hurricane Ida? Has anybody else been affected by it?
Jan, I have a connection with a guy, who, he's a B-level group guy, and he lost basically his entire rig. He couldn't get it out in time. Ida came up pretty fast. They only had 72 hours to get it out. And if you have a warehouse full of gear, it's hard to do that logistics. So yeah, he's pretty much devastated. He's camping somewhere in Texas right now, and then talking to insurance people.
Who is that?
Yeah, well.
Yeah, it is. His name is Jim Seals. Literally, he does a small, 12 cabinet RCF either side with subs, and maybe bust out from a Midas M3. To a larger console, but yeah, he got, he lost. I don't know what he has lighting wise. I'm not a lighting guy, so, but he lost a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. I mean, to have that storm come up so fast and go throughout, go all throughout the East Coast, but New Orleans really took it in the shorts, to say the least. I mean, could you imagine not having any electricity? They're worried about the food supply now because they can't get electricity for all the transmission lines went into the Mississippi River, and so they don't know when they're going to get their power back. And so, I mean, when you think about it, the supermarkets don't have power, but the hospitals are on emergency generators. So people are importing generators from outside. Like that's what Steve did. He had a truck in North Carolina, picked up a couple of generators, went back to a shop. But, the best part about it is Steve won't be here today, but he was in Denver at the time on a small vacation. But his family, and not only that, cell communication is down as well. There's no power, and after a while, you can't charge your phone. So it's like back to the days of when technology wasn't ruling our lives. Pretty amazing, hey?
I don't have to imagine it, Jan. It's how I grew up. I grew up in the Caribbean, so we lost power all the time. Sometimes we never knew. Weather was fine, but we'd lose power for 2 or 3 days. And if it was a storm, it wasn't unusual to lose power for a week to 10 days.
Right.
And I still have my family's old Coleman 2-burner, you pump the, camping stove. And once a year or so, I fire it up just to make sure it still works. And I've got a small generator that I keep here at the house. And my brother in Jersey, he's got a propane, big backup generator in the backyard. And when they had the big snowstorm 2 years ago, he, his house was
you just
fully fired up, and
Yeah.
and then he dragged an extension cord out to the driveway and set up like 10 power strips, so all the neighbors could sit around and charge their phones.
That's exactly what
you
you do in Florida when it happens.
Yeah,
I got
and don't forget, folks, you can charge your phone in your car.
Thing.
Everybody forgets you can charge your phone in your car. You can plug it in there, just let your car idle for an hour and you'll have a full charge.
Yeah, but
Hey, what's going on in New Jersey, Eric?
Well, at least on the ride home today, it was storming, not quite at hurricane level, but storming like crazy. I walked about 30 feet to my car, soaked to the skin. And I mean, the weather's been rough. It's either been super hot or super rainy. And there hasn't been a lot of nice weather in the last few weeks. So I don't know if that's, hurricane related or whatever's going on with the storm, but it definitely has not been great. But I've been watching New Orleans just like some of the others did. A friend of mine just reached me 2 hours ago, said, where can I find a bunch of generators to rent around your area that you can help me get trucked down here? And I mean, it's gotta be grim. Plus, I mean, I gave him a couple names, but I imagine that anybody who's got them has already been reached at this point because everybody and their mother is looking.
Yeah, and I would say this for those of you who don't have a generator, in about a month, 6 weeks, start looking at Craigslist. If you're in that southern area, you're going to find lots of barely used generators for sale. Go buy one for cheap, buy the carburetor rebuild kit, get a new air filter, get a new spark plug, and just keep a generator around. I mean, you're not trying to power the whole neighborhood, but if you could power your fridge and an air conditioner, if it's, August, a small little window unit or something, and charge your phone, you'll be okay. You won't be great, but it's better than the alternative.
And just remember, you heard it here first.
Wisconsin, I know we have a generator plant up here in Wisconsin. They're sending, I think they just said on the news last night, like 3 trucks with techs down to Louisiana and a couple of generators. So there are people going from Wisconsin from a company called Generac. Their techs are going down to Louisiana to help get generators going and help get power back up.
The problem, though, is that even if you have the generators, particularly down there, where you're going to get the gasoline. If the gas stations can't pump it, you can't get it. And if your car isn't full, where you're going to, you can charge your phone, but then you won't be able to drive anywhere.
Exactly. They're
I
saying their lines are like long out of the Louisiana.
Well, they passed a law in New York and New Jersey that the gas stations must have a backup generator by a certain date. or they were going to get fined. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was online during Hurricane Sandy. And even though I had a generator I brought from work home, it just, did the basics, but every 5 hours it needed a refill. And there were fist fights. There was all kinds of crazy stuff, about people cutting in line. And that's after 4 days. Imagine 20 days and you can't get gasoline. I mean,
Yeah,
people
the one my
shoot.
brother installed is a Generac that runs off the gas line.
Yep, you got it. I mean, my house here in Dunedin, Florida, I have a 500-gallon propane tank, buried in my backyard because during Hurricane Marie, I lost power for a week, and I lost. I have a reef aquarium, and I lost $30,000 worth of animals. So, yeah, insurance.
Yeah, I think so. So 500 gallons should get you what, like about 2 weeks, more or less?
Yeah. I have a modest 1,000 square foot home here. So, yeah, and I have solar panels on top. So,
yeah. Well, that's enough propane to get me through one barbecue on my weekend the way I cook. So there you go. I got to get a big one. I got a better barbecue, and that's about the size of it. Hey, look, there's a lot of bad news, but I got some good news to share with you guys. There's T-Mobile. T-Mobile is like off the hook good right now. And they just made a deal with Apple. So if you have T-Mobile on your Magenta plan, they're giving you 1 free year of Apple TV. So if you want to watch Ted Lasso, which I think is the only show worth watching on Apple TV, or if you haven't watched Broadcast News, those are the shows. What's that? The morning show. The morning show. Those are the two shows.
If you choose to switch to T-Mobile, you have to accept the fact that you're going to get hacked and your information is going to be sold on the dark web.
Okay, now that's already happened, but by the way, it's already out there. Everything has been hacked. Equifax was hacked already. We don't even know how many things have been hacked. So this is the reality. Even if you haven't been hacked, the best thing to do is go up to the 3 credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and what's the other one?
Experian.
Anybody remember?
Experian.
Yeah. And just put a freeze on your credit. I mean, they make it really, really simple. That's what I've already done that. And also, if you were with T-Mobile, they gave you McAfee, and if you were with Equifax, they gave you some other service, Identity Guard. So, but it's a good thing to have your credit cards monitored like that. But the fact of the matter is, it is free TV for 1 year. So if you have T-Mobile, and by the way, T-Mobile was now recognized as the fastest cellular service in the United States.
Most so that's basically a $60 perk, right? Because it's $5 a month for that service, right? So $5 a month.
That's 12, exactly correct.
$60.
Plus they give you Netflix.
$60. Now Netflix, that's another story. That's more expensive.
Yeah, but you get a free Netflix subscription forever. So as long as you're with T-Mobile, you get Netflix as well, which is good. So T-Mobile is not sponsoring this show, by the way.
It could be if you. Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
And we're brought to you live by Kavlo, the only entertainment trade show worth attending. Screw CES, forget that. That's not important. LDI, who cares? Kavlo, that's where it's at, man. That's where it's at. I wonder if we can get a representative of Kavlo. I wonder if we can get a representative of Kavlo to come on the panel and talk about something like. But
I know somebody. I know someone.
That's crazy. That's crazy talk on my behalf. Crazy talk, I tell you. So
Mike,
Tom Source.
I'm curious about if Mike can tell us about the general vibe in Vegas. I'm about to go there for a couple of weeks, and I'm wondering what's the vibe, in terms of COVID.
What COVID?
That's what I heard is the vibe. Is that true?
Yeah, pretty much. We mask. We're pretty serious about masking here, indoors and even outdoors. You'll see a lot of people wearing their mask, just even walking down the street or whatever. It's just not a big deal here. There's just not too many people making a fuss about it. And I think I'll dovetail this into my fascinating fact for this week. If I listed 3 states for you Nevada, Texas, and Florida. Which one do you think has the highest vaccination rate? The highest percentage of people vaccinated?
Nevada.
Of those 3 states, it's got to be Nevada, right?
Of those 3 states, it's Florida.
Oh, is that right? That's
Wow.
interesting. Okay.
And it's not even close. Florida is consistently 6 to 8 points ahead of Nevada, and we are just ahead of Texas. But one of the things that's interesting is, though, even though we kind of had a little bit of a spike too because of Delta, our hospital situation is much better shape than Florida. And I'm not a scientist. This is just my opinion. But you look at what could possibly be the difference, because we're all using the same vaccinations, we all have the same medicines, we all have the same types of hospitals.
Well, what's the average age of the resident of Florida? It's like deceased, right?
No. People are
Come on,
scared.
Greg Baker's alive. Look at him. He's alive and well. What are you talking about?
Well, okay,
Yeah,
so he's
yeah,
not the
but
average.
All the people that are of my age, come on, I started in the business at 72. Okay. So I'm
18
older
or
than
19?
Jan, I think. But setting that aside, right now, all the younger people are like scared to the bejesus and are getting vaccinated like the truckload right now because every hospital is full. COVID Delta in Florida is massive.
Yeah, and we have Delta here, we have Delta Plus, and we have Lambda. Lambda
Yep.
was found here almost a month ago. But
Yep.
I honestly think, so if you're coming to Vegas, just bring a couple of masks. If you don't have masks, don't worry. Everybody has them. They give them out for free. And just know that if you're inside, you're going to wear a mask. It's not a huge deal. Nobody makes a fuss out of it. People just wear them. It's just not a big deal. But other than that, we are fairly back to 100% business. Not all of the Cirque shows have reopened. Concerts are big concerts are slowly coming back. The Rolling Stones sold out in like 18 minutes or something. But yeah.
When is that Rolling Stones concert due to happen?
Early November.
Okay.
November 6th, maybe November 7th, something like that. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, but
let me ask you this: are the venues, the casinos or the stadiums or whatever, are they requiring anything for the attendees?
So here's the deal: if you're coming to a trade show, depending on most of the major trade shows now are requiring that proof of vaccination to enter. Period, and you have to wear a mask. So NAB, you got to show your card and wear a mask. LDI, CES, haven't heard from SEMA yet, or NFR. NFR is going to be the big test, because telling a bunch of rodeo people that they have to be vaccinated and wear a mask is maybe a little bit different than other demographics. But what that allows, because those events are all over 4,000 people, by requiring proof of vaccination, there's some other administrative things that those organizations don't have to do with the state. So that's why they're doing it. Most of the casinos, hotels, that sort of thing, yes, they're enforcing masks politely. If you're at the bar, if you're traveling alone and you decide to eat dinner and you sit at the bar, while you're waiting for your food, yes, they're going to ask you to wear your mask. Once your food gets there, you don't have to, take it down, put it up, take it down, put it up. They're not going to be like that necessarily. But any other time, yeah, you're going to wear your mask.
And what about vaccination requirement for concerts or whatever they're calling shows in casinos?
Let me add something in here, because to this week, Live Nation and AEG, the presidents of both, Joe Marciano and Joe, I forgot the other guy's president of Live Nation, they made a joint statement that from now on, moving forward, it's our responsibility to be proactive in our efforts to protect artists, event staff. And so now they are going to require vaccinations for everybody to go to a concert, or negative COVID tests before they get in. So that's something, and we got the link. We'll throw that up so for you guys to read what they did. But that's unusual that both Live Nation and AEG's came out together at the same time, because really that's what it's going to come down. It's going to come down to corporate America. And what I read right now is that the airlines are debating what to do. In other words, people are saying, hey, look, in America, we got the right, we got the freedom, we got this, we got that. But meanwhile, you try to bring a bottle of water through security on the airport and you're going to get turned away. You know, they're going to say, get rid of that water. You know, so the reality is that the U.S. government now, the airlines are pressuring the U.S. government to change for the TSA, for them to change that. So now, before you can fly, that you're going to have a vaccination certificate. And of course, because of that now, I've read online that vaccination certificates are being sold for $1,500 a piece online. And I think that if anybody gets caught with a phony vaccination certificate, that should be real serious jail time in a COVID ward. You know, so there you go.
Yeah, that happened in Hawaii.
Yeah, as Greg pointed out, that just happened in Hawaii. There was a woman who got arrested actually as she was leaving Hawaii because she had presented a fake vaccine card on the way in, and they had let her go in, but then they kind of were like, wait a minute, we got to do a little bit of research, and you're from New Jersey, but you said you got your vaccination in Delaware, and you misspelled Moderna on the card, and this doesn't. So once they figured out that for sure it was fake, they found her at the airport on the way out, and they, you know, you'd think they'd just go, fine, get on the plane and leave. But nope, they arrested her, put her in jail.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's cool. So then AEG and Live Nation, that's good. They got together. Now, what about the hotels in Vegas? Are they requiring anything for attendees to concerts, you think?
For the shows? Yeah, absolutely. Because if you go to a show in a casino, you're still a guest of the casino.
But I mean, I guess the masks is a requirement, but what about vaccination?
Oh, no, not the vaccination. No, the mask for sure, but not the vaccination, not that I've heard of. And you know, of course, once the lights go down, how many people, you know, slip that mask down? Honestly, probably most of them. But, you know, I think you can only do so much unless you're willing to stop the show and turn the lights on and point people out.
Right. And
Well,
that goes into the bigger discussion of, you know, there's Dave out there with James Taylor. They're in a total bubble. And there's Mark out there with Maroon 5. They're in a total bubble as touring crew members. You know, no going down to the bar, at the hotel, room service only. Free mini bar, yeah. But you're just in that bubble in your hotel room for, X amount of days. At some point, that's really got to take a toll on a touring,
But meanwhile, the guys like Dave are right in the middle of thousands of people that may or may not be,
Absolutely. Which brings me to the second point I wanted to bring up to all of us is there's serious talk about, let's forget the front of house position and mix from backstage. Do a reference mic, a set of reference mic at the front of house position, and just mix from backstage in your bubble.
That's crazy talk. That's crazy talk. That sounds like something Prince would say. If the artist formerly known as Prince, the artist that's normally now that's dead, but that's something that he wanted to do. He wanted to he wanted us to set up a situation so that he could mix the levels of the sound from a foot pedal from on stage. I mean, that's crazy.
No, that's not the artist doing it, Jan. I'm talking about the front of house person doing it. And, truth be told, I did it with Malcolm Hill. Scarf's done it with AC/DC. And Nightbob's really thinking about doing it with Ace Frehley because he doesn't want to go out there. And you're right. You're right, Ken. There's people out there Mark said from Maroon 5 said people were ripping off his mask, saying freedom, giving him the finger.
Yeah, I've heard that. I heard that there are people being heckled right now in concerts for wearing a mask. But by the way, you mentioned Ace Frehley. Paul Stanley tested positive for COVID, and
So did
I was just
Gene.
talking. Say again.
So did Gene.
Yeah, and I was just talking to Joe Rogan, and believe it or not, he's got COVID now, and he didn't even think it existed, right, Paul? So there you have it. I mean, now that could change when a guy like Joe Rogan is not, all of a sudden he comes down sick because he was in Florida where you were, and now he's tested positive for COVID, and he's really sick.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I just read a article in Nature magazine, which is kind of a scientific journal. It said Israel did the most extensive vaccinations, are way up there at the top. They basically bought off the pharma companies. They offered double the price for the vaccines. And these pharma companies were going into these countries and they wouldn't even distribute vaccines unless they put up assets, actual physical assets against it, indemnifying them against lawsuits. But Israel said, look, we'll give you double. We'll give you $30 a dose instead of 15. And then they also agreed to do the most extensive study of anyone of the post-vaccine effects. And that's all documented too. So I read that and I thought, wow, man, Israel did it right. And then I read another scientific journal, Science, another journal that said, right now, Delta is bringing Israel to its knees. So even though they did everything right, they paid the high price and all that, the variant is defeating them now. So where are we going to go with this?
Well, what we were talking about earlier before we went live, Bruce brought it up, is that, and I just read that too in the New York Times, is that they're saying now people who have had COVID their antibodies are off the hook compared to those people that have had the shot. But now everybody's going to be getting boosters that have had it, right? So that's possibility that would, but what I read also this week is the CEO of Pfizer says that there are new strains that are more powerful than the Delta, the Lambda, and that they are working around the clock to try to find a solution for those really potent versions of this virus that have the potential of really bringing us to our knees. I'm just when they get up to the is there going to be a version of this virus called the triple X version where we all really get fucked? I don't know. It's possible, the way it's going. So anyway, it's crazy.
And I've told people, and Bruce really has a couple things he wants to say, but I have told people, if I'm assuming that for the rest of my life, I'm in my 50s, for the rest of my life, I will be living with, dealing with, aware of some sort of virus or another. And that's, if you look at the last 20 years, all the different SARS that we've had, they're starting to come a little closer and closer to each other. They're a little more severe each time. And I think I think it's just smarter to plan on their one being around all the time than to assume that we're coming to this day where it'll be gone and 100% gone, and we can burn all our masks in the street and douse them with hand sanitizer to keep the fire going and whatnot. I still have masks left from when I bought last year, but as I get low, I'll buy more. I'll just keep stocked. I just assume there's always going to be something around.
Well, I guess the question comes down to is, when does this virus business become the norm where you like, for example, I'm here in Phuket, and right now at 10 o'clock, it's like a ghost town. Everything is shut. The 7-Elevens are shut. The supermarkets are shut. There's nothing open after 10 o'clock. So how long can a society go like that before it's completely brought to its knees financially? And when you have to just make some sort of decision to say, okay, there's going to be a part of the population that we're going to lose, but we can't lose everything. You know, you can't,
Right,
what's that expression? Don't throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Right.
Is that something?
But to some point, so yes, certain entertainment dollars. So there was a study years ago that was done about the impact of stadiums and whether or not your average taxpayer should support bond initiatives for stadiums in whatever your local town is. And generally speaking, you shouldn't. Las Vegas is kind of an exception because a lot of people come to Vegas to see the Raiders play their home team or the Golden Knights play their home team. But in most states, all that happens when a pro sport builds a stadium, a new stadium, or a team moves into a new city, there's no additional dollars being generated and being spent on that game, on that sport, or on that team, or in that stadium. All that happens is that people redirect their money from whatever they were doing for entertainment before to this new thing. Because I suddenly didn't start making more money, right? So whereas before, maybe over the course of a year, I spent $5,000 on entertainment, and 2/3 of it was movies, and 1/3 of it was concerts. And now the Dallas Cowboys, move to Vegas and become the Vegas Cowboys. Well, now I'm still just spending $5,000 a year. I just reallocated it, and some of it goes to the Cowboys, right? So same thing. A lot of what you're talking about is entertainment dollars. People will still spend that money in some other way. So economically, there's a shift happening in terms of how people spend their money. But for the most part, most people are still spending as much money as they did before, just in different ways. So that's kind of on the economic side of it. I think in the short term, what has to happen is when hospitals start to have a lot of capacity again. And listen, my uncle ran an entire country's hospital system, small country, but nonetheless, for a while. And part of his job was to keep that hospital full, preferably with lots of easy stuff like baby deliveries and appendectomies and tonsillectomies. But hospitals have to make money. Right now, the concern is that we're overrunning them and they can't keep up, and the quality of care goes down and people die. And then you don't have room too for all the accident wrecks and all that other stuff that happens in everyday life, right? So I think a lot of those nighttime entertainment, social restrictions will go away when the hospital thing goes down. But in terms of dollars, most money is just being reallocated. People are still spending money on entertainment in Phuket. They're just spending it on different entertainment than going to wherever they used to go to at midnight.
I would love to agree with you on that, but unfortunately, being here, I could say there's no place to spend the money on entertainment
And listen,
at any point right now.
at
There's no
your
bars
age, what are you
open.
doing out past 10 o'clock anyway? You should be
Yeah.
in bed.
That's it. That's what Ken Porter told me. He said, "Hey, what are you doing up so late? What do you?"
And I
You
said
know,
the
I mean,
same
hey,
thing,
you know.
Jan. I said, you should be in bed with 2 women by 10 o'clock at night. Ooh.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Hey, listen. Speaking of Tom
Wait.
Source. Speaking of Tom Source, I want to jump gears just for a second because this
Bruce
is
has been
important.
waiting very patiently for a
Yeah.
while.
That was my point.
Go ahead.
My turn? Okay. This is really quick. It has to do with.
Thanks, Bruce. Okay, next.
Okay.
No.
All right. No, you're talking about fake paperwork before, and California.gov, if you put in your information, whatever you registered as to get your shot, you use, it was my phone number. So, and they send you this, I'm trying to make it come out on, there you go.
And move it right in front of your face, Bruce, right in front of your face.
No.
There you
So
go.
we
That's wow. You're a good-looking guy, Bruce. I never realized that before.
Well, it says the date and when I got it and Moderna, and all that. And it's a QR code, so anybody could scan it and my information comes up, and that's pretty hard to fake. But there you go. So you're not.
So-
I also took a picture of my card and put it in plastic. What do you call that? In Boston,
Lamination.
Yeah, you laminate it.
Lamination,
Yeah.
right.
So
And
Bruce, let me ask you this: when you scan your QR code, what happens?
You know, funny enough, I usually just show it and they're like, "Up, go ahead." Nobody scanned it yet.
Oh, you haven't tried to scan it yourself? Because I scanned mine, and the first one I got said there's no information available. Then a couple
Really?
weeks later, it said no information available. So I contacted somebody, and they said, "Okay, we fixed it," and still no information available. And then
Really? Wow.
the most recent one I got a couple days ago or something, it's got some information, but it's not the information about my vaccination. It's like something extraneous.
The crazy thing about all of this is, the crazy thing about all of this is what you're describing, Bruce, is illegal in
You know
the
what?
state of
I don't like
Florida
it at all,
and
but
Texas.
I don't like it at all, but I figured it was more since they're checking, if you got a card, I figured this was a little bit more valid than a card. But believe me, I we don't even want to go into that. I got all my opinions about that, but I understand that and I know that, but at this point in time, I just want to go work,
Yeah. One of the conditions of me coming to Thailand, they gave me an app that I had to put on my phone, and every morning and every afternoon I had to go to the hotel desk and they had to scan my phone, which sent the information. They took my temperature and scanned it once in the morning and once in the afternoon to prove that I had been here for 14 days. They seem to have that together. So, look, we could talk about COVID a lot, and there's a lot to be talked about, but Tom's in the room, and he was the one who turned us on to Viome. If you guys remember Viome. Well, anyway, Viome now, they just came up with an evidence-based precision nutrition that improves the clinical. In other words, basically, right now, they've proven that people that are on Viome, 36% in severe cases have eliminated depression, 40% severe cases of anxiety, and 38% severe cases of IBS. And basically, this program is really good for your mental health and for your physical health, the Viome, which is really good. And not only that, they just received FDA approval for their mRNA technology and AI to perform early detection of cancer in your mouth using saliva, which is more than impressive. So, Tom, thanks for turning us on to that. What's going on with you in your life, and how's everything over there?
So I'm going to piggyback on that, because the Viome technology was based upon really John Sinclair's research in the use of mRNA technology to understand cellular structure and to understand how our mitochondria respond to chemical differences in our body. And so one of their discoveries, of course, was that your microbiome, your digestive system, is critically important for your overall health. And what's beautiful about this process is it's not generalized to the population, it's specific to you. So what you're doing is you're biohacking yourself at a cellular level, and it's individuated toward your personal biology. That makes a significant difference in your capacity for micronutrient and macronutrient assimilation, helps with your protein synthesis, which is the building block of your cell development. So across the board, I would tell you after 2 years of use, I've seen a complete change in my body structure. And it's really due to three things. One, the change in my microbiome. Two, following their recommended food selection choices for my superfoods and the foods that I enjoy. And then thirdly, just adding some exercise to my routine. Bolsters the immune system. My genetic age has dropped about 22 years through scientific test results. So there's a lot to be said for the proof of this, at least from my experience personally. And I would just highly recommend you pluck down 139 or 140 bucks and get it done and improve your health and your immune system.
Yeah, Mike Brown and I both have done. Mike, what do you feel?
It was the easiest, cheapest, have me feel healthier and sleep better thing I've ever done in my life. I mean, within 10 days at most, probably closer to a week, but I could immediately tell the difference.
And look at this. I just found it's on Amazon. They got a special lightning deal, save 26% for $109.64. I'm going to do it right now.
Is that
Amazing.
for the
When I first did the test, it was $300. Now it's dropped to $109. There you go. Fantastic.
Yeah, and they just moved their location to Seattle, where they'll be able to do more
They're doing-
testing faster.
Yeah, they have to increase their processing speeds because they're now 4 to 6 weeks behind.
Yeah, it was well worth it. I'd highly recommend it. Like I said,
Thank you. And really, I care about all you guys' health, and I care about your longevity. And this is the simplest, easiest thing you can do to help restore your body's natural ability to heal itself.
Didn't
Yeah,
I hear
without a doubt.
Bill Maher talking about it on Howard Stern? He says he referred to the body's bacteria as fungus. Is that
So? There's three kinds of different cellular structures that are living inside of you: viruses, bacteria, and fungus. The oldest living structure on the planet is a fungus, and every living object on this planet, from you to a redwood tree, has this fungus or has the chromosomal marking of this fungus. And that's where the mRNA research was originally done, was on that specific fungus, because it was the first living form on the planet Earth that developed the chromosomal ability to repair its own chromosomal damage. And that's why it survived the first planetary die-off. So that's been studied extensively, because the idea is to turn on and off the mitochondrial triggers of your chromosomes so that so your body will naturally repair itself. That's the entire concept behind mRNA technology, basically. It was based upon the research on that single fungus initially by John Sinclair.
Yeah. Well, I want to say something, Tom. With the way you're talking, I might have misrepresented this panel in the beginning of the show, that there are no scientists on the panel. I think we have a scientist.
Well, I just happened to do a deep dive on this particular area because I've been at it for a couple of years now. And so I look at myself as the walking experiment for this. And then, of course, my lovely wife, because after she saw the results change in me, she's been on it herself. And I will tell you, at 69 years old, my BMI went from 27.7 to I'm now at about 12.5. I've added 9 pounds of muscle mass, lost 42 pounds of fat, and all of my genetic markers have really reversed in aging. So that's not because of me, that's because of the science. And so it just works, and it works in a non-medical manner. I'm not using any drugs to treat myself. I'm using nutrition and probiotics and prebiotics and a few supplements. But it's the improvement in my microbiome. It's improvement in the bacterial health of my digestive system that's made the most difference.
No, it absolutely works. I am living proof that it works. I had blood work done before I went on the Viome program, and then I had it done about 3 months later, and the improvements in my blood work was amazing. But even beyond that, about aging, TikTok has an AI feature right now where you can scan your face and it tells you how old you look. And I am now looking like I'm only 45. It is amazing.
Well, there you go.
This thing works really well.
I'll tell you a really quick story. When I was in Memphis, I went and had some time to get some testing done. And I haven't had an MRI or a CT scan or arterial scan done forever. But I've had blood work done every 6 months since I've been on this 2-year program. And at the hospital, I had an MRI, a CT scan, arterial scan, a complete heart exam. And the results all go to this neurosurgeon, and he calls me up and he says, well, there's a mistake on your chart. And he says, I'm looking at the results of a 50-year-old, but your chart says you're 69. I said, no, I'm 69. He goes, that's not possible. He says, I'm looking at your brain scan, you're this, you're that, you're that. And these are the results of a 50-year-old. He says, I've been doing this a long time. I'm one of the top, gives me all those criteria. And I go, well, I can explain to you why I think that's true, but I'm really 69. There's no mistake on my card. And so that told me a lot about what serious results from CT scan and MRI, cardio, ECG, and the arterial scan showed the real results of my body's regenerative power after doing this for a couple of years.
No, it's absolutely true. I had the same thing happen with my cardiologist. He says that I have the heart of a 50-year-old. So I mean, that's pretty amazing. This stuff works, and it works without doing any effort. Or I mean, there are 4 charts that they give you: superfoods, enjoy foods, minimize foods, and avoid foods. And that's it. There's nothing else you have to do. Just look at that and you say, wow, that's tomatoes it. I should avoid. I'll avoid tomatoes.
Right.
How hard is that?
Or whatever. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So for as a forward-looking way to take care of yourself, I just highly recommend the process. And from my experience and from the people who I have seen be on the program for 6 months or more, they have pretty staggering results in a positive way.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
It's cost effective, and you're not supporting big pharma at all.
And so when you say be on the program, what's being on the program involved?
Following their dietary recommendations for your superfoods and the foods to enjoy. And then I would tell you, watching here's the other stunning fact. So I did a bunch of testing before I started this, including, bod testing and complete blood work. But the other thing that occurred is as you add muscle mass, your metabolism goes up. So when I started this, I was at about 1,700 calories per 24 hours. That was my metabolism. My metabolism is currently puttering around at about 3,100 calories per 24 hours. So I'm eating actually twice as much. Because I'm burning that high of a caloric rate because of my muscle mass increase. For every pound of muscle you add usually 70 to about 120 calorie burn. So put on 9, 10, 11 pounds of muscle, and all of a sudden you're burning a lot of calories, and you're very efficient, and your engine's running clean. So the reversal of the drop in protein synthesis, which usually starts at about 40, 45, you lose your ability to synthesize protein by 50%, impacts your health in a great many ways, including the loss of muscle mass as you age. So if you're able to reverse that, which I have done, and you're able to add muscle, which I have done, then what happens is it alters your body's metabolism. And so when I started this, I was eating 1,000 less calories a day than I am today. And my body mass index is 16% lower. So that's not because I'm a genius. That's just because that's how it works.
Yeah.
But you are a genius for executing it nicely, right?
What I do is I care about other people that I care about, and I'm saying, hey, listen, you might want to give this a try because it's very effective. And you're thinking about your forward self. You're thinking about your future self. You're taking an action today that will enhance your quality of life tomorrow. And it's a simple action to take. It's not complex. All of you guys are smart people, and it's effective. And so I'm glad to hear that Jan's results are positive. I'm glad to hear the other gentleman's results are positive. But I think that that's the case across the board of anybody who I know who has gone down this path and applied the science, and they, because you feel better. I mean, that's how you really know. I mean, you can do all the other shit that I've done, which is all the blood work and the this and that and the other, but you just feel a whole bunch better relatively quickly.
Did you hear that?
I'll just
Jack?
say,
He called me
I'll just say this.
gentleman.
I'll just say that again, Michael.
He called me gentleman. You know what that is?
Oh yeah, well he doesn't know you that well. That's okay. That's okay. We'll keep it civil here. But I will tell you, I was very leery about doing this Viome thing. And Mike Brown, after you heard you, Tom, he jumped on it. And about 2-3 weeks later, we were eating lunch, and I looked at him, and his skin, just the texture of his skin had cleared up. And it was like amazing.
So what's the biggest organ on your
he
body?
Looked younger.
What's the
He
biggest
looked younger
organ
and
on your
healthier.
body? Your skin is your biggest organ on your body. It's going to show the impact the fastest, actually.
And it was right after that lunch that I said, "Man, you're doing that. I'm doing it." And it's amazing how you feel and how you look. And it's the least amount of effort you could do to make yourself healthy possible.
Correct. Yeah.
Hey, one thing I will say, Ken Porter, unfortunately, sweet tea is not one of those things that are although it's enjoyable, it's not on the list of enjoyable stuff, but I'm still going to stick with that sweet tea. By the way, Ken, what's going on with Bonnaroo? What happened and how did that affect everything? Switching subjects a little bit and giving us, our man on the street from Nashville. Also, I know you wanted to talk about something else as well. You mentioned to me last week that you wanted to talk about, what was it that you wanted to talk about? Let me see.
Packaging.
I know I'm packaging, right? That's it. Yeah.
All right, let's start with Bonnaroo canceled yesterday after we had a truck down there unloaded and they had to turn around and take it back to load out after they pulled the plug on it. There was water standing in the field, stuff like that. I'm not sure all the stories behind it, but that a lot of people are upset because a lot of people came from out of town, to do Bonnaroo for the weekend, camp out and all that stuff there. So where they're going. The other one coming back. So things have been going on. I had a rep who grew up in Houma, Louisiana, which is down below Louisiana, down on the Gulf. He said that he went down there and checked out on his family's. The house at Houma is just like obliterated with storms, and he said that their fish camps are pretty much destroyed. He said it wasn't the rain this time, but it was the winds. The winds were over between 190 and 200 miles an hour that did most of the damage. It wasn't big storm surge or anything like that where they were in a part of Louisiana. But, there's stuff like, one of the houses, the doors don't shut right and stuff there. And like, they think that's tweaked the frame of the house, even from the wind on it. Around here, there's stuff going on. There's stuff that drops out, picks up. It's mostly just carry on of in the bubble. We have tours that are out with bubbles that are, kind of supervised by Vanderbilt and stuff like that. So, it's all kind of gets crazy like that. I need to go check something, guys.
Okay, check on your packaging while you're there. And anyway, let's just open the room up, and we're getting to the hour mark. Is there anybody that has anything that they want to share right now that's been, burning in their mind that we've kept you from talking about? Is there anybody here that wants to say anything at all?
I think that cat has something to say. The cat wants to go meow.
Yeah, it looks dangerous. That cat looks like it's about ready to attack, like a mountain lion. It was. I made it sound like a pirate cat. Matey. Oh, the pirate cat. That sounds like a name for that's a good name for a band. The Pirate Cats.
Is that your attack cat, Ken?
But he's muted. Somebody unmute him.
Yeah, she wants to be with people all the time. But anyway, band names. The best band name that I ever heard one time was the Sacrificial Anodes, because that's what they put on sailboats, and stuff like that. Boats that keep from the salt water from affecting the boat. But a metal band named Sacrificial Anodes would be unbelievable.
Yeah. I personally, I favor although I'm not really big on their music, I always thought the greatest name for a band was Free Beer. That was it,
Free beer at the club tonight. Yeah, free beer is
No,
at the club tonight.
if I owned a bar, that is the last band that I am bringing in. Because there's no way I'm putting on the marquee tonight, free beer.
Yeah.
I don't even know how
Yeah,
many-
circling back, the one thing I wanted to say is circling back to everything that you and Thomas has said. I apologize for sending you all the links to foodie places there in Phuket,
Oh, no, don't apologize. The thing about the Viome plan is that you could eat whatever you want. You just have to watch what you're eating, the food types you're eating. Like, for example, I have to avoid tomatoes, so I don't order anything with tomatoes. But I could eat all sorts of other things, that are on my diet plate. It's not like difficult to do. It's extremely easy to do.
So Jan, so you have to avoid tomatoes. You've said that more than once. But prior to getting the Viome test, did you have any idea? And did you love tomatoes? And did you eat them in abundance?
Yes, I did. I like tomatoes. Tomatoes.
And so that's one of the things that contributed to your feeling better in general is you stopped eating that thing that wasn't doing well with your insides, and you feel better. Is that the idea?
It really is.
That's correct. Yeah, like tomatoes have acid in it, so some sort of acid. And by the way, they tell you why the food is good for you or bad for you. So they break it down. Even though I didn't
typically
read
has
very
to
much.
do with that food type is supporting a bad bacteria that resides in your intestinal tract. That's typical. So by eliminating that food, you're eliminating the thing that bad bacteria lives on, and then it dies off and makes room for a better diversity of good bacteria.
Awesome. So awesome. So it sounds so logical.
It's simple as can be. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's absolutely a no-brainer.
What if that something on that avoid list is something that you absolutely love and you can't do without? You can eat it anyway.
One of the things. So prior to Viome, my breakfast probably 28 days out of the month was either a bowl of granola with either almond or soy milk, or a peanut butter or almond and honey sandwich. One of my favorite things in the world is peanut butter and jelly, almond
Peanut butter out.
something like that. Love that. Got my report back, and I do not have the bacteria necessary to digest soy products, peanut products, almond products, and I need to avoid honey. So that was a little tough. I had to reinvent my whole breakfast routine. But
in general, Ken, soy is not good for men in general across the board because it produces estrogen. So as you age, the more estrogen your body's producing, the less testosterone you're producing. Testosterone is a powerful hormone for men. So soy is a destructive food for us.
But to answer your question, probably once a month, maybe 3 times every 2 months, I have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or an almond butter and jelly sandwich.
This is going to be so interesting. I can't wait to see the results of my test. Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate that explanation. Thank you.
And I will tell you that you will be different than Mike and I and Tom. Everybody's different.
Yeah. Mine actually said I need to eat more chocolate. I'm not a huge chocolate person, never have been, but it said, an ounce of natural chocolate a day would not be a bad thing.
72% and above cacao, 1 ounce every day. Same for me. Same deal. So
And it
I
said
became a
drop
chocolate eater.
tomatoes, add avocado. So some days I actually eat raw avocado. A lot of days, not a lot of days, but probably 5-10 days out of the month, I'll get some sort of chicken burrito with guacamole in it. Happy as can be.
I remember you going to the store with you, and that you were looking for Brazil nuts because, so Brazil nuts was a superfood for him.
And I still eat them almost daily.
So they don't make a Brazil nut spread, I guess, like you can
No,
replace your
I take that back. I did find Brazil nut butter online from like a specialty health food store for like $45 for the jar. I was
You
like,
can make it yourself at home with a
I was like,
food
you know what? I could
processor.
probably make it myself if it gets to be that important. But for now, I
Yeah.
just pop. They're shelled. I just pop them in my mouth in the morning, 4 or 5 of them, and that's that.
Yeah. I mean, look how good he looks. I mean, he could be the poster child for Viome. What can I say?
To be honest with you, you said something about being 50 something. I was sure you were 40 something. Seeing you all these.
Well, they're not
months on
that
here
far
anyway.
apart, 49 to 50 is really
No,
just
40
okay.
something, as in like 42 or something. It was what I pictured you being. And then you said you were 50 something. I'm like, well, he's older than he looks,
Thank you
Well,
very
most
much.
of us are in this room because we love what we do. So the stress level of what we do is up until this year was pretty low. And it's not the stress level for what we do. It's the stress level for what we want to do that we can't do because of the way the economy is, I mean, look at, some people have aged quite a bit in this year, over the stress that they've gone through, which is not a good thing. But if you eat healthy, that will eliminate a lot of the stress. Also, one other thing that I read, and Tom, you might have read this as well, is that they now have proven that your metabolism is no longer affected by your age, that you can actually
And
increase
Tom
your
is gone.
metabolism.
Tom has left the building.
Well, Tom has left the building. Well, take my word for it. And no matter how old you are, you can still increase your metabolism if you eat correctly. So, and that's
I gotta
the
go
way to lose weight. Anyway, let's see. Before we go, I just want to mention a couple of things, just so you know. Casey Musgraves is going to be hitting the road. Some Jackson Brown and James Taylor. They're extending their tour. HER has announced that she's going to go on the road. The Austin City Music Festival will take place October 1st and 3rd and 8th till 10 at Zilla Park in Austin. And Lady Gaga brings her jazz and piano back to the park in the MGM. So those are some shows that are now going to happen. Billy Joel is leading the list of moneymakers out there this year. Also, the Trans-Siberian Orchestra is going back out.
All right, I am a massive Billy Joel fan. So where am I going to fly to go see him?
Austin, Texas.
That'd be one of my choices.
Well, he's playing the Formula One race down there on.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, I looked at that. That's sold out in like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, people, you have diplomatic immunity in Austin. We have the Austin boy can get you in.
I mean, the interesting thing is, according to this Live 75 chart, Billy Joel is averaging 38,679 tickets per show is what he's selling. That's pretty amazing.
He puts on a hell of a show. 25 songs, by the way. If you want a 30-song show, you have to go to New York.
Yeah. And also the Trans-Siberian show is going back out for a winter tour. So there's tours going out.
So I saw Billy Joel a couple of years ago at Dodger Stadium, and having worked in Dodger Stadium and seen a few things, I wasn't expecting much. And boy, was I mistaken. Claire did the sound. They had 3 huge delay towers. I sat for $200 a piece in probably the worst seats in Dodger Stadium, and it sounded absolutely stunning. And you could hear every word, you could understand every word and every tune. And it was a couple-hour show and close to 3 hours. It was unbelievable. And I would do it again in a minute, only even get better tickets this time. So I was totally blown away.
It's a great show if you like Billy Joel.
Every song, my wife knew every song, and she's from Korea. So she was like, am I going to know any songs?
I am the guy you do not want to sit next to, because I will sing
the whole night
out loud. And if you don't like it, that is your problem.
And at as far away as I was in Dodger Stadium in the top tier in the back, oh my God, it's got to be 600 feet, right? It was in my face enough so that I could enjoy it, but it was not too loud. I could still, and my ears weren't ringing. I brought my earplugs, but it was Claire did an absolutely astounding job in that arena.
You mentioned earplugs. My tinnitus, I can tell you exactly which Billy Joel concert at which venue gave me tinnitus.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
But that's, I was literally 40 feet in front of the left stack for 3
Oh,
hours.
that's not good. Yeah.
And
not
I
good.
didn't move. And next day, I was like, oh, my ears are ringing a little bit. Okay, no big deal. The day after that, I was like, uh-oh, this is a problem.
You know, I'll be honest with you. I have tinnitus in one ear and it's not there all the time, but it's there enough to be annoying. And sometimes I have to plug one ear if I'm mixing a show just to reconfirm that what I'm hearing is in my head, one of those deals, you know. But I'll tell you, of all the years of corporate shows and my rock and roll times, just for a few years in the beginning, I think my tinnitus came from many, like the last up until 2 years ago, riding a motorcycle, because I can specifically remember coming home every day and taking my helmet off and my ears ringing, you know. And I'll be honest with you, very seldom did my ears ring at concerts, but every day my ears rang riding my motorcycle. And I never thought to, wear earplugs on my bike, and I should have, because I think that's where I got it from. So think about that when you guys are out riding your motorcycles. Make a mental note.
Yeah.
Well, all the years that I worked in nightclubs, my hearing never deteriorated.
Mm.
When I changed to managing car washes, my hearing
Really?
deteriorated within about 3 years.
Is that the constant drone?
Of the motors and the vacuums.
I think
Constant
from
60 hertz.
right, riding the motorcycle was the wind in my helmet,
Yep,
that
absolutely.
didn't seem loud, but it was there constantly rolling around at a very low, cycles. And that's weird.
The other thing that affects tinnitus a lot is sodium levels in your body, how much sodium you do.
So like too much sodium effects?
Too much sodium, yes.
Wow. They've advertised something to help tinnitus. Have any of you checked into that at all?
I haven't bothered because I know it's a physical thing, so I was skeptical. Plus,
Yeah.
it keeps me company as I fall asleep.
My brother's
Well,
a
I just-
saxophone player, and he has a fan on all night long. It's the only way he can sleep all night. And he's a saxophone player.
I just want to point out one thing. You got to be careful between the difference between tinactin and tinnitus, just in case you're going to use foot spray in your ears. Don't do that. All right. Just be careful. That's not a cure for tinnitus.
Hey, my
Tinactin,
mom
right?
brushed her teeth in the dark one time when I was about 10 years old, and she squirted Brill cream on her toothbrush. So there's one for you.
Well, that's where the expression "a little dab will do you," right? A little dab will do you. That's it.
Hey, Jim, did you have a chance to look about antiviral nose sprays? Which one's the best choices out there?
As of right now, there is no good choice. I did do some research on that. They have not perfected it yet, but they are working on it. It is not there yet. It is just not there yet. The best thing I could say is wear a mask and stay away from anybody who's sneezing and coughing a lot. That's my advice to you people out there. Stay safe and stay healthy. And is there anybody else that wants to share something with the YouTube or Facebook audience? Otherwise, I'm going to let them go and we'll talk about them.
I will
that's
say,
what will happen.
last night I had the opportunity to go listen to some Renkus Heinz speakers at the new Renkus Heinz Theater here in Las Vegas. And I've always liked Renkus Heinz. They make a quality product. It's American made.
Me too, yeah.
But I was blown away by a couple of new things they have. If you get a chance to hear from their rep, or you're in Southern Cal, or you're in Vegas, find the time. I was impressed with the clarity and the uniformity of clarity. Even when you start pushing pretty hard, it behaved very nicely.
Did you ever hear the co-entrant stuff before line arrays that they did?
They've sort of brought that back.
Oh my God, it was like 16 drivers in this box. They hung them at the racetrack, and they literally shot the sound over the top of the horses into the audience. And it was like somebody was standing next to you talking, and you could barely hear anything down in front of them down low on the this was like in the early 80s. I couldn't believe this stuff. And then
this Renkus Heinz Theater that's at Notoriety, David Dansky, is using their latest stuff, and it sounds really good.
wow, very cool. I'm glad to hear that.
It's flyable and stackable. It's fully portable. So
In its day, I was a fan of their SR1s.
Did you say, Michael, that they were made in the United States?
yes, sir.
Yeah, right in California, aren't they?
Southern Cal.
Yeah,
That
Southern
is where
Cal.
headquarters is. They design them, make them, and ship them from there.
So I was driving up from Orange County the other day, and Gary was with me, and I says, we're going right by where we should drive by and see if Frankenstein's is still there, because I haven't heard anything from them in so long. So that's good to hear. I'm glad.
Yeah. And they have inventory.
It's
Wow.
At the moment, they are the only major manufacturer I know of that has inventory of powered wedges.
Wow.
Like ready, like you order tomorrow morning, it'll ship Friday morning.
Wow, that's great.
Well, that's really amazing to know. I hope that they're part of Cavalo for your sake, because
We're
they
working
should
on
be.
it. They had another commitment. They're trying to figure out how to do both.
There you go. There you have it. All right. Well, if that's the case, then hey, we've learned a lot today. I'm not going to go over a recap because I wasn't paying attention. I hope you were out there. I have stories that we didn't cover, and let's talk about packaging next week. So if you have anything you want to talk about with packaging, bring your packaging stories in for next week. And we'll be here at the same time, same place. So remember, everything you heard today, make sure you do your own research. That's really important. Just make sure you do your own research. And I want to thank you all for tuning in and listening and sharing this with your friends. And just remember, you make it happen. So stay safe and healthy. And we will see you again next week on the Roundtable. So with that in mind, we're off the air. If I could figure out which button to press, there you go. That's it. And so we'll see you.